Look at that. I haven't washed my hair, but I did brush it. But there's like there's a sideways alfalfa going on over there.
Oh, wow. I didn't really notice that at first. I haven't washed my hair yet either.
I have a sideways alfalfa.
Sideways alfalfa, sideways alfalfa. We all live as a sideways alfalfa on a given day. On a given day, that day is the day. We all live as a sideways alfalfa, sideways alfalfa on a given day. That day is today. We all live as a sideways alfalfa on a given day. That day is today. That day is today. What a glorious day to be a sideways alfalfa, sideways alfalfa. Now it's sticking up. I don't know what an alpha.
If I sit right here where it lines up with the star on the wall,
Yeah, you really can't tell.
Yeah. So I'm Dan Carlson, one half of Two Cat Men with a sideways alfalfa.
And I am John Kadolf, the other half of Two Cat Men, and I do not have a sideways alfalfa, but I've got this little strand of hair that's just kind of dangling.
Yeah, that's a Skeet Ulrich.
That's a Skeet Ulrich?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yesterday was, or Gary Gygax Day was a couple days ago.
Yep, 2 days ago, to honor Gary Gygax on his birthday. It has been declared as International Gary Gygax Day. Yesterday was Founders Day. Founders and, I don't remember what it's called exactly.
Sideways Alfalfa Day.
That's today.
Oh.
Yep. So from now on, July 29th, it will be forever known as Sideways Alfalfa Day. If you have the ability, you should wear a strand of your hair straight out of the side of your head.
Mm-hmm.
And if you post a picture of that in the comments, you get 10,000 points.
Yeah.
So happy Sideways Alfalfa Day, everybody.
Okay, so we both watched, this is Shudder Club. We both watched a movie on Shudder.
Yes, we did. And it is called DEADTECTIVES.
Which is a terrible title.
Yeah, a terrible title, but a good movie.
Good movie.
An unforgettable movie, but I mean, a forgettable movie.
Yeah.
Because I had trouble recalling what I saw this morning.
Yeah, I actually had to call him and remind him what the movie entailed.
Yes. We watched on different days, and Dan, I think, remembers a little bit more than I do. So he's going to take the lead on this, and
okay,
and then my memory will come back. It was a good movie. Don't get me wrong; it was a really good movie. It was just a forgettable movie.
Way to punt it off to me. So, DEADTECTIVES is a movie about this ongoing quasi-reality show where ghost hunters hunt ghosts, and the producer / star of the show goes to great lengths to fake hauntings so that he has something to show on his show to get ratings. And he's been given an edict that he's basically getting canceled if his show doesn't perform.
Yeah, because his most recent show featured a woman in a cafe that was apparently stealing the recipe that made her successful.
That was probably my second favorite sequence in the entire movie. I would have made the whole movie about that.
Yeah, and his partner, I think, is his either girlfriend or wife.
Girlfriend. Yeah.
She's the producer. His girlfriend was really pissed off because he was taking advantage of the fact, and he just wanted to make
a popular show, and he was really exploiting this poor woman, through lies. I mean, it's really overacted and overdone and everything else. So I don't know. It's basically like every one of the ghost hunter type of TV shows that are out there.
Yeah.
And he thought it was the best episode ever. He gets to the production company's office, and they hated it, and they said, "This is your last chance. You're being canceled unless you go to Mexico to a reportedly actually haunted mansion and stay the night."
And they do, and it is actually haunted.
Yep.
It sort of reminds me of the Frighteners in a lot of ways, because he was in the Frighteners. Michael J. Fox was a hoax, and then so his was a little different because he actually could see ghosts, but he used that ability to see ghosts to hire them to haunt places so that he could go and clean them out.
Yeah, and that was cool.
Yeah,
I love the Frighteners.
Yeah, it was really good.
And in this case, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, in this case, he's not aware of the existence of ghosts. He's been faking the hauntings so that he can get ratings for his show, and then he comes across an actual haunted house.
Yeah, and they in fact, several times during filming, they'll say they'll even admit that they don't believe in ghosts, except for one of them, who is kind of the Spangler of the group. The Egon, he's the techie, where the props department builds him props, and then he makes alterations to the props so they actually work.
Yes.
Which is really kind of cool. This basically is kind of a what I would call
low budget Ghostbusters, or
I wouldn't even say low budget. I would just say that okay. So Harold Ramis and
Bill Murray, Dan
Aykroyd, when they created Ghostbusters, they envisioned it as a basis for a now we're talking in world here, as a basis for a franchise opportunity. You remember when Venkman says, just think the franchise rights alone would be astronomical in Ghostbusters. Well,
I think you just hit on a really good angle for any future Ghostbusters sequels that probably is not going to be exploited.
Right. Well, that's another thought, but I'll save that for later on. But what I'm getting at is that I think honestly that probably if Dan Aykroyd saw this movie, he probably thought to himself, this is kind of what I was actually going for, is for Ghostbuster groups to pop up all over the United States and the world, and that they would set up these franchises and go and
fight ghosts.
Yeah. And that it just so happens to be these skeptical people that fake a show about ghosts, and then there's the one guy that actually believes in ghosts, and so he creates real usable technology to find ghosts because he has that hunger for it. So he does this, and then basically reveals to everybody in his group that there really are ghosts, so they actually start their own business as Ghostbusters, basically.
One of the cool, it kind of helps because the goggles that he invented allow you to see the ghosts. So
right.
There's not a lot of people acting around and not knowing what's going on. You can actually interact to a degree with the ghosts that are in the scene.
Right. In
Which
fact,
leads to I don't mean to interrupt again, but I just want to bring this up now, which leads to one of my favorite moments when a ghost is moving his own dead body to write a message on the wall in blood. and the message he writes is, "It's me, you dicks."
Or no, he actually just writes, "It's me,
dicks." And somebody says, "Who's dicks?" So he puts a U.
He draws a little carrot and then writes "you."
Yeah, it's me, you dicks.
And then they still don't get it.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, he wrote you dicks." Well, who's you dicks? Or something like that.
Yeah,
But
just
so the humor in the movie is really funny.
it's not laugh out loud funny
A
mostly.
rundown, huh?
I don't think it's much of it is very laugh out loud funny, but it is
Oh,
humorous.
I
laughed out
actually
loud a
laughed
couple
out
of
loud
times.
several times, but so a little bit of a rundown of the film itself. So they get to this mansion, and the team goes in, and one of the more skeptical of the group walks up these stairs and is like, "Okay, ghosts, come and get me," or whatever, and he gets stabbed right through the back in a fairly gory stab scene, which I thought was pretty cool, and then tumbles down the stairs and dies. And then basically comes back to, well, doesn't come back to life, but his ghost exits his body a few minutes later, and he looks and he sees his own dead self. And then he actually starts encountering the ghosts, because now he can see them because he's dead as well. He orients himself to being dead, and of course, as in a lot of ghost movies, they don't really know how to be ghosts yet. So he can't get through walls. He can't affect objects as well as he would like to. One thing he can do is drag his body around so he can, like Dan said, write messages to his buddies on the wall. There is the representation of the light and going into the light, and he refuses.
Now, is this? Am I wrong in calling this element of it Lovecraftian, where you can exit a window in one portion of the house and come back through another portion?
I would consider that Lovecraftian because it's weird. Anything that's weird.
Okay, so it's weird. So it's
like, whoa, that's weird.
Although it was done in Poltergeist. I mean, they went in through the closet and came out. So yeah.
Right, yeah. And I kind of really enjoyed that, where they're stuck in the house. I love the fact that the mist is outside the house as well. It's like the whole mansion was picked up and put into Ravenloft or something like that, And they can't exit the house. They're stuck there until they solve the issue, which they eventually,
But every attempt to leave the house just causes them to re-enter the house at another portal.
Right, exactly. And then they start using that to their advantage, which is kind of neat to see.
Yeah,
as well.
that was cool. Not a gore fest, but pretty gory.
Yeah, not a gore fest, like you said, but
pretty gory.
But pretty gory and satisfyingly. It's not.
The trailer really gave the impression that we were going to be watching a gore fest.
Yeah, that's true. So go into it understanding that it's not going to be a gore fest, but that you're gonna be entertained for whatever the length.
And there's a decent amount of gore. I mean, more than you see in some movies.
Yeah, and give it a chance. Go into it open-minded and just take it in. This is a movie to go into without expectations, and you'll really enjoy it.
I just think that it almost feels to me like he had written a Ghostbusters sequel and then couldn't get it made as a Ghostbusters sequel, so he did this to it, kind of.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's how it felt to me. Although it's like I said, it's not, to me it wasn't laugh out loud funny, but it was funny enough. I consider it a good movie. It's funny. I just didn't find myself actually giggling out loud, which I normally would like to see if a comedy is really hitting on all cylinders. There's a couple of laugh out loud moments. I mentioned one, and that opening sequence where the woman is getting called out for stealing a recipe. To me, like I said, that would be a movie of its own. To have such small stakes. That to me is funny.
Yeah, well, and I think the kind of cool thing is the guy, the head ghost hunter, he may not be able to see ghosts, and he may not, and he may be scamming everybody, but he's really intuitive, and he can look around a room and gather enough information that he can put together an.
He figured out that you stole that recipe.
Yeah, just by looking around the room. So he's good.
Mm-hmm.
And a good investigator. It's just he's investigating the wrong stuff at that time.
Yeah.
And now that he believes in ghosts, now it's going to be a pretty powerful group, I think. But You can't always get what you want.
Nope. Sometimes you want Ghostbusters and you get Dead Detectives.
Yeah. And you know what? I was pretty happy with it though.
Yeah, so was I.